definitely a journey. I mean, like as a filmmaker, an artist, and a producer, it's I think, and to kind of go all the way back to, like Bookie and stuff, that's when
Mm.
I first met Bao.
Right,
And so we actually grew up in the same hometown,
right.
born and raised in Olympia, Washington. And then we actually just never knew each other. Back then we had the same like family friends and everything like that. And then fast forward in our 20s, like I kept hearing about, like we had a mutual friend that kept saying, who's the other, why are all the Vietnamese guys making kung fu movies? And I was like, who's this other Vietnamese guy,
Yeah, I
and
remember
then they
that. Yeah.
just, and there's like, who's Bao? And so like that's pretty much how we met on Bookie. And I was like, oh, you're the guy, and so, but really it was about what I learned from Bookie was, just next level filmmaking. It was, I just, the whole idea of the fact that, our whole production was, led by a POC crew, like producers, director and everything. And then just meeting Sean Mayor there, Ken Kitagwa, and just seeing the level that they were working at, even though at that point, we were just starting off as amateurs, really. I mean, like,
Yeah.
Sean was starting to break into the industry a little bit, and Ken was just, he was a designer,
Yeah.
like, by trade. And so, but we were just so like-minded. We just wanted to get better. And so that's why I was just determined to keep working with these guys. And they were just working at a different level that it kind of, inspired me to become better and just ask the right questions to get better. And so as we kind of grew, like everyone kind of moved in different areas, like, some live in LA, some
Yeah.
moved to the Bay Area and stuff like that. Like, we still kept in touch. We told, promised each other that we'd make a feature film. And it only took, maybe 16 years, but like it's, but at that point, it, by then, by the time we were ready to make the Paper Tigers, I mean, we had, 20 plus years under our belt, and we've kind of learned along the way. And for me as a producer, like if you notice, I was a grip, started off as a grip on
Right.
Bookie, but then eventually kind of evolved into producing. Was the learning lesson for me was I was a part of so many projects that went nowhere. And I was kind of frustrated because I was like, why is it that all of these short films, either number one, didn't turn out very well, number two, die in the festival circuit, or three, never get distribution. And um and so I wanted to figure out, what was the secret sauce, like what were we missing? And what I saw was that there wasn't a dedicated producer, meaning from concept all the way to the end, and really merge the creative with the business aspects of film. And so for me, I was just, well, I came from the creative side. I learned about lighting. I was, a camera operator at one point. And I do a lot of post-production work. That's why I was a colorist on
Right.
out. I actually, a little behind the scenes, I also did some, special effects stuff for Paper Tigers. So a lot of stuff, like a lot of that knowledge still applied to, what I do today. But having the ability to be a creative and also kind of determine how you market a film, how you promote it, how do you look after post-production type stuff, like it still applies. And I think that was sort of the missing piece. And to have partners like Michael Velasquez, Dan
Mhm.
Gildark, Yuji Okamoto, like we kind of combined all of our powers and kind of covered a lot of things that I felt were missing, in past productions. And so that's why when we started the Paper Tigers, when Bao first pitched it to me about probably 9 years now,
Mhm.
I was determined that, that's where my place was going to be, that I was going to make sure that we achieve, our goals to the highest level, and thankfully, we've gone to theatrical, we're
Yeah.
out in digital, and then now, we're out in Netflix this weekend. So
Prior to the experiences of making and pitching the movie Paper Tigers, which you've I know you've told on more than one occasion, but having gone through those other setbacks as well too, you you're seeing rejections in other areas in the industry where you're participating in a movie, you're making a film, and then you kind of realize along the way that there's something that's missing, which is the producing aspect of it, which has the artistic set of values you are looking out to keep with the films, but at the same time, the business values that are also very important, which I think a lot of people don't realize. So when having gone through all that and then leading up to those pitch meetings, was your mindset a little bit different throughout that process, going through what you went through and up to that point, and obviously where you are now with this film?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I think past experiences definitely kind of helped. I think in general, like when you first start any project, like
Yeah.
you're still trying to figure out mentally, like how confident are you in pitching the story? Like or I think there's always a little bit of insecurity
Hmm.
coming into it, just figuring out, well, is because when you develop a project, a lot of times it's in a vacuum, right? Like it's all in your head, it's all
Hmm.
between you and your partner, and so it's sort of like testing grounds when you start pitching,
Right.
and so there's a little bit of butterflies when it comes to the first time pitching that project. You're still trying to get all the words out right, like and engaging interest, right? And so
Hmm.
in the beginning, that's where we were at. We were just trying to get our rhythm, and then after that, like it was, I think we learned very quickly that like no isn't a bad answer. I mean,
Yeah.
it's at
It's the
the
most
end, it's
common one people hear in this industry. Yeah.
absolutely. And
Yeah.
and I think we quickly stopped taking it so personally.
Yeah.
I think we were very logical about the idea that we were just trying to find the right partner. And that's sort of like a crucial thing when in business in general, not just in the film industry, that you want to find the right partner with the right money, versus trying to get money in general and bringing in all of these characters that you're going to have to manage, because that's sort of the business side of film that like everyone has to get used to, is that there's a lot of personalities that you have to deal with, and being able to filter out the right people from the wrong people, and so that once you find the right people, they will be your champions, right? They will champion this film like a
Yeah.
lot further than the people who are
Yeah.
just about trying to find like how to get their money back, and I think if you have a bunch of people who are just constantly knocking on your door trying to figure out when are they going to get their money back, like those aren't the right people.
Were you guys fully aware of how the system was, how that was expected to be handled for you guys? Were you guys expecting people to come in and expect to change everything as far as the color of the cast is concerned, and maybe some other elements as well too, but primarily just the color?
Yeah, we certainly weren't naive about that. Like
Okay.
we did have a conversation about the fact that hey, someone might come in and say we're going to change the actor into white or whatever it is.
Mhm.
So we were prepared, and we already had an internal discussion that that wasn't going to happen,
Right.
and this came from the fact that we have other friends who did go through the same things. Like this wasn't uncommon, and especially when this was before Crazy Rich Asians and Black Panther, and
Mhm.
so the whole trend of diversity wasn't there during that time. So we had no leverage, at that point.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
but we knew for a fact that that just changing the color of our characters just wasn't compelling. Like
Yeah.
it didn't add to the story. Let's just say
Right.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. I know.
And I think so that's where we were coming from.
For you, when you're seeing the evolution of the industry and you're seeing how it kind of rolls out with a new age of like film actors who are now being in these major tentpole projects. We just had recently announced that one of the actors that was in I'm trying to remember, Cobra Kai, is now going to be Blue Beetle, and he's
Mm,
going to be a Hispanic character. We've had two actresses that are announced that are going to be in DC movies as well too. I forgot the actress's name off the top of my head. I'll have it on the screen later on.
mhm.
But one of them is a Colombian who's going to be playing Supergirl in the new Flash film, and then we have a Dominican American who's going to be playing Batgirl in the new Batgirl movie. So it's changed, it's evolved, and it's a great thing that we're seeing that. We would have never seen that 10 years ago. It would have been white people all through and through.
Absolutely.
So there's a part of me that's excited to see that, and I'm glad. But are they being done for the right reasons? Is it because these actors were great and they can do the character justice, rather than let's just put in a Hispanic actress in there? But then again, the people that are involved with making the film, I think, have some sort of influence behind that as well too. But I'm still kind of like resistance to the notion that people are going to be accepting that this is the change that needs to be made. It should have been made a long time ago. Let's start doing it now. I don't think that's pure, in my opinion. But I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, I mean, like, case in point, one of our producers is, the great Yuji Okamoto,
Right.
right? He's, from, he's decades of experience, in Hollywood, and he's seen it all, like
Yeah.
from, from his work in Karate Kid back in the day, and then,
Mhm.
from now in Cobra Kai,
Mhm.
and he actually, talks about, his whole experience during the time of the Joy Luck Club when that hit. Him, as well as other actors like even Ron Yuan and Roger Yuan and all the Asian American actors during that time, they were waiting next to the phone and waiting to see when they're going to get called, and nothing ever happened.
Right.
And it was a lot of wait and see, and that's sort of a regret that Yuji had. He was just like, during that time, it was so new, no one really knew what to do at that
Right.
point. It was, they were just waiting for studios to validate them, essentially, right? And acknowledge that Asian Americans in film was going to be profitable in some sense, right? And it never happened. And I think for Yuji now, like the reason why he signed on to the Paper Tigers, and I've been working with Yuji since like I think '09 or something like that, is that he's essentially that guiding light for us, as well as to let us remind us of what else could happen, which is
Yeah.
nothing. And there we have to kind of take responsibility in continuing. Hopefully it's not a trend, like,
Yeah.
and hopefully this is a fire starter for something even bigger. And for us, like, that's why I always say in our, because we've been on this promotional tour that's taken us across the country for since May, and
Mhm.
we've been meeting more and more people who've never heard of the film, which is great, and really kind of giving them kind of this eye-opener story, that the fact that even today, like 5 years ago, like a lot of studios still push back at us, that they kept saying there's no audience for this movie. Kind of like for you when you watched Robert Rodriguez, first time Desperado, whatever it is, like El
And
Mariachi,
mariachi,
like
right?
you it spoke to you. You
Yeah.
were the audience, and
Yeah.
you yourself knew exactly who else would benefit from this movie, right?
Yeah.
You knew. But the people, the studios and the execs who made decisions back in the 90s were the same people who are making decisions in 2000s and today.
Mhm.
So think about that for a
Yeah.
second,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So they're the green lighters, they're also the people who make all of these decisions. So what is their incentive to change? Because they don't see, they're not at the ground level seeing who are coming into theaters. And so for
Yeah.
us, that's why it was so important to stand up and just go, hey, I know that there's an audience there, and that's why we went to Kickstarter, right? Because we wanted to prove a point that there's an audience out there.
And it
It's no
worked, but it took some grinding to get that as well too. From what I
exactly.
hear.
And for us, like, like our confidence came from the fact that studios love the script.
Mhm.
It's just not the people in it. And so for us, it's like, okay, we have the story, so let's just make it, like for us, we know that audiences essentially don't care if there are a bunch of Asians on
Right.
it, right? Like, and there's always this weird like opinion that you have to appeal to the Midwest, white people in the middle states for some reason, right? Like, and even with that statement alone, like you're actually looking down at white people in the middle states. Like, they actually liked our movie, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, even like the proof is in the pudding now. Like, now looking back, it's like we went to those states, they love our movie, and they're white people, and so what are you trying to say? That you know what I mean? So it's like,
Yeah.
So again, we're still trying to prove this point, and I think I'm optimistic that things are changing,
Yeah,
but at the same time, just like Joy Luck Club and what Yuji says to us all the time is, don't wait. You have to take action,
yeah,
and really the next level is to become in that position of green
yeah,
lighting projects.
yeah.
It's not, let's not wait for the studios.
Yeah, well, we're starting to see a little bit more of that too, because I know Warner Brothers. I've forgot the name of the guy behind DC, Walter Hamada, I think is his name,
Mm,
who's running, the horror side of it with James Wan with all the Conjuring movies, and then with his experience, they brought him over to take over DC's films, and that's where I was starting to see a slight change with the casting of these actors. Once he came in, it became pretty obvious that, okay, well, he obviously has an influence over that, because the success that he's garnered from producing those Conjuring movies, which were very successful and still continue
mhm.
to be successful, there's more variety in terms of actors and people of color. So, and Marvel in some ways kind of started that, but not necessarily was successful at it, right off the bat. I think they were still kind of fighting their footing when it comes to that. Kevin Feige, I'm sure, is a very nice man, but even he admitted when he had cast the Ancient One with a British character, a British actress, he's like,
Mhm.
yeah, we're trying to be, unique about it, but we all knew that you fucked up. You brought in a white person for an Asian character.
Yeah.
Um, and how is that being unique? Well, she's, there's no, I mean, it was ridiculous in my opinion. It was really, really stupid. And I'm sure he learned his lesson. He admitted it, and thankfully he was open about it. Hey, we fucked up. He didn't say it like that, but he fucked up. But with the new people involved now, this new age of heads of departments, that's slowly starting to come around, and we're starting to see those varieties there, which I think is very necessary, but not to the point where we need a Hispanic person to do this here. We know we need a good actor, and okay, bring in everybody. I understand Black Panther. You're going to need a black actor to play the part. That's a given. That's absolute given.
Mhm.
Shang-Chi, you need a Chinese actor or an Asian actor in general, someone who can do the character justice. But with when you guys are when you're watching your films, Paper Tiger, with the audience, I mean, there's got to be a part of you that's satisfied and very content with what you're seeing, how the reaction is, and people coming back to you and say, "Hey, we love this movie." Like that's and you're watching people react to that. And I mean, I know you've talked before about this here, but even now, up to this point, with your touring press and talking about the film being released on Netflix, there's got to be a side of it's like, holy shit, we've made it this far, and here we are in this position where people are reaching out to us and talking to us, and we're like, 10 years ago, that it felt like it was that was it was a pipe dream for us. So now in this position, there's got to be a sense of satisfaction, a sense of like, okay, we've made it this far, let's keep going. So I mean, I don't know if how your perception has changed at this point now for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, you know, Bao and I have been, on this, like I said, on this tour, and we've had a lot of conversations of, me personally, I don't like to celebrate because I'm all, afraid that something bad's about to happen.
Mhm.
Like that's just how I've always been. But
Superstitious, is that more like what you're thinking, or just you're just afraid that
cautious.
that's what it is? Okay.
Yeah, I'm not superstitious, but just more cautious. And maybe it's just a producer thing because you're always like putting out fires,
Mhm.
and so whenever something amazing like this happens, you're always waiting for, okay, what else is about to come, and for us, I mean, I'm super fortunate and thankful that this movie has found critical acclaim, and also
Mhm.
like audience has showed us the love, and we're certainly not taking it for granted. We're soaking it in because you'll never have another first movie ever again. And the fact that we've reached, I mean, I think we're still at 98% Rotten Tomatoes. I
Mhm.
mean, that's not a lot of movies achieve that, and
Right.
so, and for, we don't get tired of hearing people really connect with the movie. I mean,
Yeah.
that's you know as a movie lover myself, like finding a movie that really you connect to is really
Yeah.
special. And so for us, we want to see this momentum to continue, but not just for the movie itself, but um
For the
also
community.
for the community,
Yeah.
like, and for other independent artists out there that we know there's someone else that's on their 10-year journey right now and they
Mhm.
don't know it yet. and we're hoping that we can cut down those years for others, you know. And already, you know, like for I mean, for me personally, like I haven't been able to sit down and kind of work on other, you know, major films, but like I have been, you know, developing other projects for other people, you know, try to open up, you know, green light other, you know, like as of right now, you know, working on a few documentary projects that, you know, are super meaningful and have been able to connect, you know, these directors and everything with people that usually wouldn't give them the time of day, you know what I mean? But I'm trying to leverage my connections with, you know, the success of, you know, the Paper Tigers and everything, and really support other independent artists and try to get their, you know, projects made. And so definitely the success of this movie is not, you know, I'm making sure that it's not wasted, you know,
Right.
that, you know, while I'm waiting for my next feature to happen, you know, I'm plugging myself into other projects and, you know, trying to connect them with the right people and get things off the ground. I mean, it's making a feature film, regardless if it's documentary or a genre film, whatever it is. It's I mean, it's a fucking like
Yeah, it's a
hard
hard.
thing to do, you know, and so I don't take that for granted. And whatever way that I can, you know, help others, you know, I try, you know, like Bao and I haven't really had the time to just sit and really talk about. I mean, there's a lot of talk about sequel, like from
Yeah.
other people at least, like, you know, asking if we're going to make a sequel, and that's super flattering because, you know, it Paper Tigers is always going to be something, a project that we'll love, you know, for the end of time, you know,
Mhm.
and to be able to, you know, get the crew back together and kind of work in the same world again, the same universe, like that would be kind of a dream come true. But you know, for us, it's always story first, you know,
Right.
like we're not going to force a sequel just for the sake of a sequel.
Mhm.
And you know, it comes down to, you know, if we have the right script, the right story, the right characters and everything, and if everyone's willing to come back, I mean, that's we'll pull the trigger on that. But you know, it comes with script first. But outside of that, you know, we're kind of entertaining other action films. But
Is
the
that the genre
one,
you're more you guys are leading to are going to be sticking with, or I mean, are you guys planning on doing? Because I mean, Bao, when I saw Bookie, you can tell he's a really good director, and watching Paper
absolutely,
Tigers, clearly you can see that he has a lot of um, you know, good direction when it comes to the dramatic beats of with the film. So, I mean, is there a part of you guys that are just going to kind of eventually stray away from that, or just try pick your hand in other pockets to try other genres, or is right now it's just all focusing on action?
we definitely want to try other genres. You know what I
Okay.
mean? Like it's, you know, yes, we're Asian. Yes, we love kung fu, but you know what I mean? Like that, we don't. We have other things to offer. You know what I mean? And like you said with Bookie, I mean, and you know, hats off to Bao. You know, Bao is an amazing director. I mean,
Yeah.
as a producer, what I felt confident in with Bao was that he knows how to direct actors.
Mhm.
And that's something that's very rare because a lot of directors really focus on the visuals, they focus on everything but the actual relationships with actors. And Bao was able to communicate with actors in like very efficient way. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
like if you talk with Ron, Elaine, and stuff like that, they call Bao like an actor's director, right? And that's super important to, you know, be able to bring out those the right emotions from
Right.
actors. And so I would love to see, you know, Bao tackle a different genre. I mean, like you would be insane not to hire Bao to do something that's outside of, you know, the kung fu genre, because you know
Yeah.
that if you notice with the Paper Tigers, if you strip away, you know, the kung fu, it's still a great movie. You
Yeah.
know, like there's
Yeah.
still a comedy, there's still the drama, there's it's all about relationships, and the
Yeah.
actors performances were top notch. You know, you can't I mean, you can knock on the story or whatever, but you absolutely cannot knock on the performances of the
Right.
actors. And I stand by that because it was just amazing, you know, what they did. And so for I mean, for me, you know, I would love to tackle other genres, but I think one of my selfish projects that I want to tackle now is that it's actually a document. Like one of my number one loves is actually NBA basketball.
Mhm.
and I think I love basketball more than film. So
Okay.
it and so to be able to combine those two things is sort of my dream. And so
So like a
um
sports movie is more
I'm
like you're
actually
leaning towards?
developing a documentary
Right.
about basketball in Seattle.
Okay.
It's sort of a love letter to basketball in Seattle, and how, the fact that, just because the Sonics have left Seattle, like,
Yeah.
it doesn't mean that basketball has left, like we
How'd you feel
still.
about that when you when that happened?
Oh, it was heartbreaking, like, I mean, for me, it was, like, I love the Sonics till today, like, that's why I can't wear a Trailblazers jersey, even though they're the closest team. But I still have that I-5 rivalry in my head. And so, the documentary is going to cover about, that, what it was like to essentially lose the Sonics, but also what's happened ever since. And so there's a stat somewhere that says that, Seattle has produced more NBA players than New York has, in the past,
Mm.
like, decade or something like that.
Oh, okay.
And so, there's just a long history there, and we're still creating stars in the NBA right now. Like,
Right.
like Zach LaVine is from the area,
Right. Right.
who's with the Chicago Bulls. And so, so just diving into that history, and diving into
Interesting.
that culture. And there's still a hard, like, strong basketball culture here. And so that's sort of my dream project right now. And so just kind of diving into that. And yeah.
Okay, well, I'm kind of trying to shifting gears here because there's something you mentioned that reminded me of a particular scene in Paper Tigers, which so Pat, myself, and Francis, we had done a review for the movie, and there was one particular part of the film that we discussed about, and for some reason, when you mentioned basketball, it reminded me of that, where it had to do with I forgot which character it was, where he called oh, Jesus, I'm forgetting the character's name already, where he called Michael Shannon's character the
Oh
N
yeah,
word,
Mikhail. Oh
Mikhail.
yeah, 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 yeah.
So and so when you talk about basketball, for some reason that reminded me of that. But this is something that I wanted to ask your opinion about with culture clash. Where we have
Yep,
Asians, Hispanic, because I'm Hispanic. The Hispanic community. I've seen tons of Asians do it as well too.
yep.
Obviously, Black folks they drop that word. Um, when Francis was talking, he's like, no, whatever, use it. I was like, you'd be very surprised how often that happens, and it happens a
Mhm.
lot.
Yep.
So and that was one of the reasons that was the one part of the movie that I mean I was loving the film up to that point, but that one scene was really what woke me up because I bursted out laughing because I was like, this is exactly how it is in real life. It really is like that. Granted, there was a little comedy element added to that scene, of course, for the movie, but it's there was a realism that I really did appreciate because that's not something that is dealt with a whole lot in movies. I think Rush Hour kind of did that a little bit,
Yep.
but it just was all comedy effect. But in this movie, there were consequences, and then there was ideologies. Hey, no, calm down, relax. That was the realistic aspect of the story that I appreciated. So when you guys were writing up that when you guys were working on that scene, I'm sure Mikkel. I said Michael. I meant to say Mikkel. Mikkel was was prepared for that. Was there any sort of resistance at any point from him? Like, hey, listen, I'm not comfortable with that, or was he, like, you know what? Let's keep it. It's real. Let's add to that. Let's go with it. What was that particular discussion like leading up to that particular scene there?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you kind of hit it on the head. It's, we were just being real about it, right? It's
Right.
we we had discussions about the script, and, like, if this was something that we wanted, if this was something that, we were just using for shock factor, because obviously, we don't want to, use it in that way. But there was something about it that, we had to use it, in a
Mm-hmm.
sense, because the Paper Tigers is not about making Asians look good or bad.
Right.
This is a real look at, what Asian Americans are. Like, we are not just great at math, but we have divorces, right? We are deadbeat fathers. We are, all of the above, just like anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just, and so when this was brought to Mikkel, he said himself, yes, this word is being used, right? Like, he was being real as well, like, but for him, it was about how are we going to use it, and how does it benefit the story. And for us, we wanted to make sure that there was a beginning, middle, and end to the use of this word. And so, when it's dropped, the reason why it's even dropped is, like you mentioned, Asians use it a lot.
Mhm.
A lot of non African American folks use it a lot. And sometimes it comes out a little too easily, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like and we've had pushback from other Asians that they're just like, oh my God, like how dare you, depict Asians using that word? And I'm just like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but we are probably the one of the worst offenders when it comes to that word.
Hispanics too. We use it a lot as well. So
Right. And it's just real talk. And
yeah.
and so, but we used it in this film in a way that it shows the generational divide, right?
Mhm.
Because there's a certain generation, it's not just all Asians, it's a certain generation that kind of grew up with music that said it, a culture that, uses it, and uses it in a sense that's not trying to offend anyone, but it's also, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there's just this weird fine line of, like that we all had to learn of, is it okay to use it or not?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's a constant conversation. And so that in the movie, that was sort of a moment for the Tigers to kind of group together, right? As
Right.
an older generation that's offended by the word, but also as Asians kind of in solidarity with, African Americans as well, that,
Yeah.
hey, this is offensive to all of us. We understand what's happening. And so that was sort of their Three Musketeers moment to
Yeah.
band together
Right.
and fight this group, right? And so that was the beginning. The middle was obviously for Jim to fight, but the ending was actually where Bao, as a director, actually opened it up to Jim and Brian, Brian Lee, who plays, the punk kid who says
Oh
the
yeah.
word.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And Bao actually behind the scenes had them talk it out and say, if you did say this to him, Jim, how would you react? And I think that was a powerful moment because as African American actors in Hollywood, they're never offered these options of how they would react, right? And this was actually something that Bao opened it up
Yeah.
to Mikkel is, like, how would you react? And, Mikkel is just like, because that was sort of an open discussion because, there was the option of accepting his apology,
Yeah.
or as he, reacted in the movie, he didn't accept anything. He was
Yeah.
still pissed, right?
Yeah.
And that's a real reaction.
Yep.
And so that's what we captured. And so that was the ending to that story, to the N-word kind of story arc.
Yeah.
And so we just wanted to be real about it, and not just being real about, the fact that Asians say it, but the fact that why would Jim accept his apology?
Yeah.
He would rather beat his ass, right? And then,
Yeah.
and walk away from it, right?
Right.
And
Right.
so that was just us being real about it.
Yeah. So, and that's one of the things about the story that I truly connect with, because that's in movies, like, there's it can be a really tricky thing when how you portray people of color in certain situations, where a lot of one of the things that I hope to see in a movie one day, where you see the internal prejudice that happens within the community. Hey, no, don't talk to him, he's Vietnamese, because I've seen that happen before too, growing up as
Yeah.
a kid, which I didn't know existed at the time until I was exposed to it. But I heard, I've seen that with my own community too, where yeah, I've heard, Peruvians tell a black Panamanian, don't, because the guy was Peruvian, but the guy thought he was Puerto Rican. Don't downgrade me. I
Mm.
mean, that kind of like thought process for someone to think that way. But then you think about that too, and then you realize, well, you slept with Puerto Rican women, so does that mean you had to downgrade yourself just to get to that level? Because that woman was clearly beautiful. You didn't seem to mind the levels of ethnicities for this community. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. So there's like a lot of like fine lines of like how you have to portray that. In my mind, is you just got to keep it real, and that to me spoke to me a lot, because when I saw that scene, I bursted out laughing because it was funny, but two, that's exactly how it is in real life. And the fact that you guys touched upon that, because I know you can't, that's not what the film is all about, but the fact you guys brought that in the movie, I think is very integral. There's a lot of key moments in this film that I thought were very, very important, that I think needs to be brought to people's attention. And how people perceive it, well, that's where the education has to come in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think people have to understand that that's the way that it is, and unfortunately people are still uneducated about how they're being portrayed. But fact of the matter is those things exist, and if you want that to stop, then educate yourself and educate other people to not say those things, and stop ridiculing the people that are exposing that, because they're doing you a service by saying, hey, this is what it's like, maybe we should stop, because these are the consequences for that. And I think that
Yes.
movie certainly did its job in portraying that, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, since we're still on the topic, it's like, I don't want people to think that, just because it's in the movie, we condone it. You know what I mean?
Right,
It's
right,
just
right.
more of like, we're just putting up a mirror at this point. It's like, hey, like, we do this
Mhm.
as a group of people, like, depending on, where you're from. I mean, like, I know it's commonly used in the South, certain areas in LA. Like, it's like, it happens, and especially like if you play pickup basketball, I mean, like, words are going to be
That's where
thrown.
sports is where it comes out at the worst. That's really
It's
at the
clash of
yeah,
cultures, exactly. and
yeah,
and so, like, that's, and coming from, loving basketball, like, I hear it all the time,
yeah.
but it's a cultural thing, it's a generational thing, and it's just something that, like, it's still in conversation. But, like, relating it to film, I mean, like, it's growing up, when you see a lot of like Tarantino films where it's like thrown left and right,
Yeah.
and just blatantly used, you know what I mean? But, for some reason, that's never questioned. It's just, oh,
Well,
well, as
I think
much.
I think it is to a degree, but I think Quentin's in a position where he's been so successful, and I'm not trying to throw shade at him, but I do kind of disagree with his perception about it. Where I'm bringing it out because that's how people talk. Chris Tucker famously, I'm sorry, he shared a story where Chris Tucker had read the script for Jackie Brown, and he was reading it. He's like, "Oh, who wrote this? A black guy?" He's like, "No, I wrote it." He's like, "Because you wrote exactly the way we talk."
Mhm.
And I don't have a problem with that to a point, but the problem that I do have with it is that someone else who clearly Quinn has grown up in a black culture, is quite obvious that he has black friends. I get that, but when you see that, and then the problem that I kind of cringed at was when Chris Tucker said, you write the way that we talk." So a white guy had to write that for that to be acceptable for black men to be able to be portrayed in a much more authentic light, if you will, in a
Mhm.
realistic environment, so on and so forth. But if a black guy did that, it's just going to be another hood movie. And
Yeah.
there are hood films that are very good, but there are some that are not, and only a handful stick out as being quality movies, if you will. But Quentin wrote that. I'm like, I think it's good that he's doing that to a degree, but not to the point where I think that it should only be him that's able to expose that, or to portray that. It's got to be There's got to be other people that can be able to do that, because imagine there's another director and writer in the same level as far as artistic and artistic integrity is concerned, that could probably match that or go beyond that. Give them the opportunity and see what they could have come up with. They probably would have been better than what Quentin had written, and I'm sure Quentin would have been a fan of their work as well too. But it is a white system, unfortunately. So I mean, I don't mean to like drag this down with this, but there's a lot that I had a problem with the system, how people have been portrayed and how people are being used in those situations. But at the end of the day, who brought it into light? The white guy did. Not saying that they're wrong to a degree, but that's what ended up happening about this movie. So we did the review for the film, and someone had commented on a review for the movie, and then had mentioned that there was actually, because I figured that there was obviously a lot that was cut out, and I did see the deleted scenes. There was a lot more story behind Jim's character, where that was completely just removed from the movie.
Mhm.
Um, and from what I read in the comment, there was initially a 3 hour plus cut of the film. Is that is there a possibility that somewhere down the line there may be an opportunity where you guys will be able to release like an extended version of the film?
Probably not. Because I think once we cut those scenes out, like, we didn't color it, we didn't, like, have any sound done on it. So it's
Mm,
like, so that would be like a whole nother, like, um let's just say there's a lot of money that we don't have to, like,
yeah,
put together the
yeah,
rest of the movie. But yeah, I mean, like, it was, yeah, we did have like a 3 hour cut initially.
How did you guys like that version? Were you guys content with what you guys have put together with that initial cut?
Um, I mean, it was great to see everything pieced together, but I think story wise, it was sort of all over the place a little
Mm,
bit. There wasn't a focus. There wasn't like a clear theme. For us, we kind of had to go back to the drawing board and really ask ourselves, what was this movie actually about?
mm,
And for us, it was about these three guys and their love for their master, their Sifu, right? And how they were going to band together, back together. And for us, we wanted, initially the script was about, this falling out between Jim and Danny, right? And that's why
right.
we had this long backstory of the fact that, Jim didn't feel like he belonged anywhere. You know, this black man who happens to be closer to his Asian kung fu family versus what we would have thought he would have been closer with, like this MMA world, and so we kind of wanted to show that dynamic, but then it kind of went a little too far. The focus was gone, and
Yeah.
and so we had to streamline it a little bit, and so that's why we had to cut out those scenes.
Yeah. I had brought up to Pat a while ago when I had him on the show about how people are being hired, directors that are being hired to tell a story for that deals with a person of color. One of the famous stories that came out a while back was the Memoirs of a Geisha,
Mhm.
a Japanese story with Japanese action directed by a white guy, because his sensibilities brought what was necessary for it to tell the story. So there was a controversy that happened a while back. I forgot the name of the film that they were going to be making here, but it dealt with a Chinese story, and they hired a white guy to direct a movie, and a Chinese director had said, "Give it to somebody who has that background, that knows the story, that can tell a compelling story with the visually, whatever the case may be." But you gave it to that guy. One argument that I heard, and I'm curious to hear your perception on this, which was that it's really about who can direct the story well. Doesn't matter the race. It's really just who can tell the story well, which I agree to a point, because he pointed out that if you think about Brokeback Mountain, it's directed by a Taiwanese man who's not gay, who's not from the Midwest or the South, but he told a very compelling story, which I do agree with. It's a very good film directed by an Asian man. But when I pointed out to Pat said, well, the story is about two men that are different. And this Taiwanese director is different. So he can tell that story because he understands what it feels like to be different and can tell a compelling story at that. He brought up a good point. So I'm not sure how you feel about when it comes to directors telling a story of people, in this case, a story that has to deal with a person of color, especially when it comes with a very landmark moment in that particular culture, but having someone else that's not of that race tell the story when there are opportunities. There are other potentially great directors that can tell that story in a very compelling fashion, probably more so than the guy that you hired initially to tell that story. So I'm not sure if you have opinions about that, how that's perceived, and because I mentioned before with Pat that one of my favorite movies is Blood In, Blood Out, but it's directed by a white guy,
Mm.
Taylor Hackford, but he grew up in that culture, spoke Spanish, and brought in a Spanish, a Chicano poet to help write the movie, who also was in the film as well too. So it has an authenticity behind it as well too, and a very good one, I think, in my opinion. But I'm not sure how you perceive that for yourself, and how would probably be the way you would think you would probably approach it under those circumstances.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of a case by case basis. Like
Yeah,
for me, I think two things can exist at once. For me, I don't want to be pigeonholed and forever make Asian stuff, right?
right,
Because even though I'm Vietnamese, that doesn't qualify me to make everything Vietnamese because I'm born here.
right.
Like I do speak the language, but at the same time, my dialect is very different from others, and it's complicated. But
Mhm.
case in point, like Nomadland, right? Chloe Zhao, like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean, I think she's Chinese American, born in China, but at the same time, like the subject matter of the movie had nothing to do with being Asian American. She just brought her kind of like what you said with, like Brokeback Mountain, like there is something about a director understanding what it's like to be different, right? And you're kind of applying that lens to the story, and I think that's compelling. And I think, you know, there there's a lot of movies in history that, you know, had white directors that did a great job, that had nothing to, you know, their race had nothing to do with, you know, the story elements. You know, they just were able to bring um certain parts of the story out. And I think, you know, I wouldn't say that, you know, no white directors or should be able to make, you know, POC films and stuff like that.
Right.
Like, I think let's stop that whole like this or that, you know, like, you know, like we should just be, an artist should be able to make whatever art they want to make, and it's up to the public to, you know, judge it for whatever it is, right? Like,
Right.
I don't want to cut people short. That, you know, what if that white director is about to make an amazing, you know, Asian film, whatever it is, let's see what happens, you know. And so I think in terms of opportunities, like I think, you know, we should start seeing that Asian Americans, Latino Americans, African Americans, like especially like I love to bring up Jordan Peele, right?
Yeah.
Um, he could have stuck with comedy, but he didn't.
Yeah.
But he actually, you know, has something else in him that, you know, brought out a story that, you know, just so happens to have, you know, African Americans starring in it, right? But he's bringing a different perspective that's never really been explored, you know, like this kind of this dark horror side, you know, that's mixed with comedy, mixed with social commentary. Like,
Yeah.
he could have easily went a certain route. And so I think I think we're at the cusp of people of color artists, POC artists, of making a whole new genre, you know, a whole new type of storyline that has never been told before. What is it like to be foreign in your own country? I think that's something that we're just starting to, you know, tell. Where, you know, like for example, being Asian American, right? Like if I go to Vietnam, they think I'm a foreigner. Here, people still think I don't speak English, right? But there's something about that, you know, we're still exploring. And I think, you know, it's take another generation of, you know, filmmakers to get those reps in, and then finally, you know, we're going to hit our stride, you know. So I don't know, that's sort of my long-winded answer to your
Trust me,
question. Yeah.
it's actually a good answer that you gave there, because I think you said it best at the very beginning, where you said it's a case by case basis. You just have to filter out what's going to be best and what's not, and then bring people involved that will help make the right decisions to tell the story. Going back to your film again, when I look at your movie, like I said before, I yes, I did see, you know, people of color in the film, but you know, as you watch the movie, you forget that very quickly. You know,
Mhm.
it's just a story. And you know, that's what I would like to see more often with films. And for me, I always felt like the music was ahead of the curve, because they have done everything. And most of the time, some of the greatest bands and rap groups are people of color,
Mhm.
and no one brought that up in most cases, in some occasions, until they see them like, oh my god, I thought you were a white guy. But they had that perception, but then they continue to listen to music because it still had that impact on them. Like Jimi Hendrix is considered one of the greatest guitarists of all time. He's a black man. One of the greatest frontmen of all time, in my opinion, is Freddie Mercury. He is Indian born, but raised in England,
Yeah.
and he's gay as well too. So you know, there that variety of people that are out there. For me, I always felt like music was ahead of the curve when it came to that department. Films in the hand, for some reason, was a little more far too far back to catch up with that. And I think that's a mistake, because you can really feel that music has more of an impact to some degree than films do, because the variety is available for everyone to take from it. It's like a buffet. You like it, take it. If you don't like it, don't take it. But it's all
Yeah.
there for you. Films is a little more restricted, in my opinion, and I'm hoping that will change along the way. You know, when you were growing up, you grew up in a pretty predominantly white neighborhood. Because in my experience, I have grown up in a neighborhood that's full of people of color, Asians, Hispanics, Black, everybody, and quite a few white people too. But I always felt predominantly in a POC environment rather than in a white environment. Was there ever a perception that you realized that, holy shit, there's a bigger world out there that I was not privy to, that I was not aware of, despite what I was exposed to at home. But seeing that now, like, has anything like that for you changed where
um
you?
like I, like you said, I grew up in a majority white town, but it was sort of like a dual worlds, because there's the like the west side part of town that is majority Vietnamese, and so like
Mm,
a lot of my friends were over there, but I went to, predominantly white school, and so kind of having, my white group of friends plus my Asian group of friends, so like I kind of understood, where the two worlds were. And so kind of branching out, like Seattle is a very liberal city. We are kind of in our own bubble, and a
that's
lot
where
of
you're at right
time,
now, right?
yeah.
Okay.
And so, our perspective here is like, oh my God, there's liberals and there's conservatives, and like white conservatives won't like us and all this stuff. Like it's sort of a common thing here. And so, when you're branching out and, like kind of seeing the different cities all across the nation that are really, they feel connected to our movie, like it's sort of like a learning lesson that, like film is one thing, but also a lot of people love kung fu, man. Like it it doesn't matter where you come from, really. And like we were in Baltimore not too long ago, and in a small town called Hunt Valley, but technically we were in a small city called Cockeysville. And
Okay.
funny thing is that, Bao and I were just um we were at a restaurant, and we were having a bottle of wine. We just landed in Baltimore, or technically Cockeysville, and we were there for a screening of our movie at a
Right.
kung fu tournament. Um, and it and it was amazing because at this hotel where all of, the martial artists were at, you were seeing white seafoods, black seafoods, Latino, all the mixes, like everyone from all over the country were there for this kung fu tournament. And it was amazing just to see this kind of like snapshot of what martial arts today look like.
Yeah.
And then and we were having, like lunch with one of the black seafoods there, and he was talking about, growing up African American, and pleading with, a Chinese man to teach him kung fu, right? And to watch kung fu movies and have all of his heroes be Asian. And for us growing up, loving hip hop and
Yeah.
really idolizing, all these, black rappers and all this stuff. And and we were just sitting there just sharing our love for each other's cultures. And then after that, later that night, like I said, Bao and I were sharing a bottle of wine at, this some random restaurant in the city.
Right.
And this older white couple were just overhearing our conversation. They just hopped in. Next thing you know, we're talking about our movie, and there's like, what, why are you, screening your movie out of all places in Cockeysville, and then all of a sudden, like we just connected with this old couple, and the next day they took us out to a winery. They took us out to this well, the best Italian restaurant in the city. So I mean, shout out to Nancy and Nino if you're listening. Like we ended up becoming essentially best friends. Like and they watched our movie. They pitched our movie to everyone that they knew, and they admitted to themselves, they're just like, we know nothing about kung fu, but we just love, what you did in this movie, where it was for everyone. It was just like, you know if you watch our movie, we don't hit you over the head with the fact that this is an Asian American film made
Hmm.
by Asian Americans with Asian American crew and all this stuff. It's, hey, this is about the love of kung fu, and it's a comedy, it's a dramedy.
Hmm.
It's it has a little bit of everything. And so it's yeah, I kind of forgot what the original question was, but like it's
I was just pretty
um
much asking you if you being exposed to, I guess, other cultures, other POCs outside of your hometown, did that awaken something inside you, like, holy shit, this exists, And
Yeah, okay,
you're
yeah,
pretty
yeah.
much answering the question pretty much on the spot on, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, like, that's sort of my wake up call, was that, like, I knew that there were a lot of people who were into kung fu, doing kung fu, but
Right.
I think that tournament alone kind of was a reminder of that, the the best, martial artists out there today are non-Asian. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
Scott
that's
Atkins is comes to mind for me right now.
exactly, and that's okay. Like, I think we need to stop this ownership of, like,
Agreed.
you know what I mean? Like, just because I'm Asian doesn't mean I am like the go-to for all Asian things, right? And the I met some amazing martial artists that are African American and white, and one white sifu there was explaining how his sifu recently died, and all of his kung fu brothers actually came back together, and they had their disputes, and now they're not talking, and it's almost like the Paper Tigers all over again. And so there's a lot of people who connect with the movie that have nothing to do with being Asian, and so, like, I think that was sort of my wake up call, that like, these stories, whether it be about kung fu or whatever, like, there are a lot of universal themes,
Yeah.
and that, yeah, we need to stop categorizing
Yeah.
ourselves.
The opportunity that I got to watch this film, quite frankly, meant a lot because, I saw it at a time where I was exhausted and I was wiped out and I just was pretty much running on fumes. And so it was a rare opportunity that I saw a movie that really, woke up my senses, and I have come to love it. And then when I, got my sleep and got back and watching the film again, it wasn't a fluke. It was an actual connection that I had with the film. And the fact that you guys have gotten the opportunity to be able to travel around and show this film and have people react to the way they did, I think it's amazing. So in my opinion, I think this is something that I think is well deserved. And I also hope that there brings up more opportunities for you guys to try other things along the way too. So I can't thank you enough for giving me the time. I know that you're extremely busy, so I really want to say thank you very much for allowing me to speak with you about this here and to ramble on. But is there anything right now that you want to say before we sign off here that you want to share with anybody?
Yeah, no, I mean, just in general, like, just want to say thank you to the public who've, have had nothing but kind words about the movie. um you know like, this has been a long journey.
Mhm.
This, like, I don't take this for granted, the fact that people even want to talk to us about the movie, you know what I mean? And so, I certainly don't take that for granted. And thank you all for coming out to theaters when we came out in May. Thank you all for getting us on the charts on iTunes, and then now that we're on Netflix, like, it means a lot to us if we can really tell those Netflix algorithms that people want to watch this movie and movies just like it, like it, and it goes beyond just the Paper Tigers. It's going out to all of our other Asian American brothers and sisters who are, like, in like, let's say, whether it's kung fu or warrior, snake eyes, like,
Yeah.
it's all of the above. Like, it's not about representation of for everyone, it's representing something, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I think we need to stop this whole thing of, well, it didn't represent Southeast Asians or South Asians, or like, it's once you're trying to find something that's representing all of the above, now we have to do some quality control, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, we have to make sure that the roles that we are making are of quality, and that they're meaningful. And so, hopefully moving forward, that when we have more of these opportunities and more of these projects, that we're creating quality roles for each other.
Yeah.
So
Well, I appreciate that in the closing here, but I will make sure to have all the social media links for you as well too, for anyone to look out for you and follow up with your work. Again, thank you, Alan, for your time, and you have yourself a wonderful day and be safe out there. And cheers.
you too. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Man.